Hey guys, this is Sam the Community Gardener. I'm back at you once again this morning. We are preparing to plant a loquat tree, and for those of you who probably don't know what a loquat tree is, it is a tree that is native to China as well as Japan. It's been in this country now. I think it's growing in all 50 states of the United States, but the loquat, some people call it the Japanese medlar or the Japanese plum tree. It's an evergreen shrub, and it also grows as a tree if it's pruned just right. It is valued for its evergreen dark green foliage that is very, very beautiful, but it's also known and loved for the fruit that it produces. Now this tree, it can grow as a small tree, about 15 to 30 feet high, as well as 15 to 30 feet wide. It's a rapid growing tree from what I understand. Although I planted one from a seed maybe 2 years ago, and it's still quite small. As a matter of fact, we're going to dig that one up today and replace it with this one that I think is about 2 or 3 years old. These trees typically start to bear fruit when they are 4 years old. You need to leave enough space. Make sure you're not planting too close to a building or too close to the overhead electrical wires and lines and things of that nature, because this tree does grow pretty fast. It can grow up to 3 feet per year in ideal conditions, which I think here in Georgia we have pretty much ideal conditions for most crops that can tolerate warm weather. Some of the colder weather crops we don't really grow a lot here, like apples. They're not very, very prominent here. Cherries are not very prominent here, but the loquat is one that will grow here. And it has very beautiful foliage. The leaves can be from as wide as 3 to 5 inches, but they can be as wide as 6 to 12 inches in ideal situations. The leaf is like a glossy or dark green, while the lower leaves surfaces are covered in short, whitish to rusty, I'm gonna call it fur, almost like little hairs that's on the leaves. The veins are strongly pronounced in the leaf. It's a very beautiful plant, very beautiful plant. And so today we are going to replace a small one that we planted, like I said, a couple of years ago with this one that we bought about a week ago. It's in a pot right now, and we're going to put it there. One thing that I didn't mention to you about this particular plant is its flowers. The loquat trees, they typically flower in the fall, in September through January. And the fragrant, from what I understand, it's like a white to off-white flower that has like 5 petals, and they are like 1/2 to 3/4 inches in diameter. And the loquat produces a yellow, pear-shaped or oblong fruit in the spring. April through June, it produces its fruit, and that's what we're looking forward to. The fruit is eaten raw or processed into like jellies or jams or preserves, and some people even make pies out of them. They are grown commercially for fruit production in California and the lower regions of the Gulf states, like especially Florida. However, loquat is mostly considered an ornamental tree or brush or shrub in South Carolina, because fruit production is limited by the frost that they get there in the winter and the very excessive heat and moisture in the summer. So they don't do very well in producing fruit in South Carolina and some other areas. So let me just close right now, and I'm going to come back to you guys once we are ready to plant our tree. You can watch us as we do it. So I'm Sam, the community gardener, and I'll be back with you here shortly. Hey guys, this is Sam, the community gardener, coming back to you again. I told you earlier that we were going to plant a loquat tree, and I want to just kind of show you what I have here going on with the loquat. I'm going to show you what we got going on. I said we were going to dig up one of our smaller loquat trees because it's a slow grower for whatever reason. It may be the soil here. So what we decided to do was to go ahead and dig the small one up, and we're going to replace it. So let me just show you the trees that we're going to be planting and the one that we're going to be taking up. So bear with me one second. I'm going to turn this thing around here and allow you to see what's going on. So guys, right here down low, this is the small loquat tree that we planted here. I guess we planted it here less than a year ago, but we had already had it in a pot growing for about a year, I think, and it's really growing. I grew this one from a seed, so I didn't really expect it to grow any fruit anytime. So now let me show you the one that we have that we're getting ready to plant. This is the one here. It's about 4.5 feet, almost 5 feet tall. It's about 4.5 feet tall. It is a fast grower. As you can see, I have the tree there. I have a water bucket that I'm going to utilize after I plant it, and also my shovel. And in this green bucket here, I have some compost that I'm going to add with the native soil just to give it a little boost as it's starting to grow. So guys, I'm going to come back at you in a little bit. So let me get started here, and I'll come back at you in a little bit. So guys, we are now preparing to probably dig the dirt out of the old hole where we're going to plant this new tree. As I told you guys earlier, we were really looking to put this new tree down. So what we want to do was just take some of the soil out of this hole. It may take me a minute or two to get it done, but we will get it done. And really, you're supposed to, from what I've read and what I understand, the hole needs to be a couple of sizes larger than the pot, one size larger than the pot that the tree is in. So we're going to make every effort to make sure that it is wider, one size wider than the pot. That's what we're hoping to do. This is it's kind of hard work, but if you like it, you enjoy plants and doing this kind of stuff, then it's worth the reward, especially once you get fruit growing on your trees. I can see some of the compost that I had added when I planted the small tree, and I'll add some more to this particular one. And you want the tree to set up just a little bit higher than the hole that you're putting it in. Almost anything will grow here in Georgia. We have the greatest season. It never gets really too cold here. Every now and then we might get a freeze, but typically winters
are probably in the mid 40s. Every now and then they go down a little lower than that, but we have some really good weather here for growing practically anything. You can see if you look closely at the soil here, much of our soil is a lot of red clay, and it's not just this property. Just about everywhere in Georgia you'll find, maybe with the exception of up in the mountains, you may even find it there as well. But for the most part, we have a lot of red clay here, and that is why I want to augment this soil with some compost that I have in that bucket there, just so it'll get a good start and it'll start feeding. We'll still have some width. It's about October the 10th right now, but we'll still have some 90-degree weather here, so it'll try to grow some this year, but I'm very hopeful that it'll go dormant very soon, and then next year we'll concentrate on growing it, making sure that we fertilize it well. Okay, let's see how big it is now as far as the putting the pot down in it. Oh yeah, I think that's absolutely perfect. So now what I want to do before I put this in there is I want to take some of this compost in this bucket here, and I just it's just some regular compost from Lowe's of the Black Cow brand, and that's the brand that I typically use. So we're gonna just pour some down in first, okay, toward the bottom. But then what I want to do is, as I start to put the soil back in, once we get the tree down there, I want to go ahead and put some of this soil back in now, because as I said, I want the tree to set up just a little bit higher than the hole itself. And add a little more of our Black Cow compost. Let's just put that on in there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to come over here and see about removing this tree from the pot. It should be quite easy, being that it's a plastic pot. Shouldn't give us much problem with removing. Looks like they've got a metal stake down in here. I'll just pull that out and toss it there. But we're going to see what we need to do. I think what probably one of the better things to do for me right now is to just turn it on its side and maybe loosen it up by hitting it this way. That should loosen it way up, and it should come right out. Yeah, see that? This is what we have, and as you can see, all of the roots that are growing in this tree now, we're going to take some of the soil off just to break those roots up a little bit so that they can start growing again. You can see they were growing, it was actually becoming root bound. So we're going to just sit it right there now. I think that's perfect, and we're going to go ahead and backfill it, and with the soil that we dug out of it, the native soil. We've already added our compost, and now we're going to just place some native soil back in there. This that came out, I'll just rake it back in there. But we'll go ahead now and I'm going to put these gloves on, and I'll probably just rake it in there. Since I put it on plastic, it'll be much easier for me to. There she goes, leaning over. That's why we want to make sure it's planted deep enough. So here we go. We're going to just pull this over here. Well, we thought we would. It's quite heavy now, so we'll just put our gloves on and see if we can't move this native soil over here. It's quite heavy. but we'll be able to do it. And that's good. We'll just work it in with our hands and get it all around and fill in the gaps and that kind of thing to ensure that it grows well, and we're almost certain that it's going to do well here in Middle Georgia. Now, I won't fertilize this at all this year because the summer and the season for fertilizing is just about over. So we're just going to rake the rest of this native soil back in. I tell you, you have to really love this work, and you have to love planting, and you have to love gardening, because it can be some hard work involved, but I love it, so it doesn't bother me. What we want to do too is we want to push this down because we want it well seeded. As a matter of fact, I'm going to even step on it a bit to make sure that it's well seeded, so that if a heavy wind comes along, it won't basically tip it over, because we do get a lot of rain here, and we certainly want it to survive. We think it will. And this small tree here, I think what I'm going to do with it is I'm going to put it back in a large pot, and I'm going to leave it out. It's an evergreen tree, so the cold weather shouldn't bother it too much. But this new one, we're expecting probably a year from now to start eating fruit from it. So I'm Sam, the community gardener. This is our Loquat tree. We just replaced a small one with this larger one that we hope will take off, and we can see some substantial growth next season. So guys, I'll see you next time in the garden. We've just replanted our Loquat tree, and we'll come back at you next time. Great now. Bye now.